Limestone Cafe.
Merħba lura fil-programm Maltese DownUnder. Fit-tieni taqsima, Mark Avellino ser laqana ma' Brian Tanti, kuratur tal-Mużew Fox Classic Car Collection f'Docklands u espert fir-restawr ta' karozzi klassiċi.
Well, the building is one of the few historical landmarks left in the west side of the city, and it's known as the Queen's Custom Building. It was built in 1890. The original home of the National Mint, so it was part of Note Printing Australia. And as it became obsolete as a mint building, it then became a customs bonded warehouse. And shortly after that, the building became an obsolete building. So we've been here now for the last 23 years and have been showcasing Lindsay's private collection. And the way I got into this game was kind of an interesting story, but it was one where I was working for somebody else and built a car for Lindsay through them, and they liked what I did and offered me a job, and I've been with them since, and that's almost 30 years.
So your background with automotives, where did that sort of originate from?
I started doing a panel beating apprenticeship in North Coburg in the early 80s, but I'd been around cars probably a lot longer than that. But the influences for all of this probably go back to my childhood, where I'd be helping my uncles working away and learning how to use hacksaws and drills and things. So, you know, I've always had a love of working with my hands. But it was really through that apprenticeship, and then post my apprenticeship I went to the UK and worked over there and spent a year there, and then eventually came back.
Right. So you'd sort of worked with Rolls-Royce, is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
And you've recently had some of your work showcased at National Gallery.
Correct.
So the work you do is quite broad, you know, from the point of view of restoration and development. Would you like to sort of tell us a little bit about the sort of development work that you do here in Melbourne?
Sure. Yeah. Well, there's a whole range of things. As a coach building is essentially where we start off with a two-dimensional sheet of metal or aluminium and give it three-dimensional form and then turn it into a motor car. But beyond that, the same skills are being applied to prototype development work. And in 2009, I set up a not-for-profit organisation called Auto Horizon, and we were given some federal funding to process and look at a new process for curing carbon fibre. And we designed and built Australia's first composite passenger structure in conjunction with our 92 partners. So it was a lot of fun. Wow. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey where the skills that you initially start with are used for a whole range of different challenges once you've got your trade. So you can start off on the tools, but you end up really doing anything.
You took us through the workshop earlier.
Yeah.
We were having a bit of a look through the clay models and some of the kind of cars that are currently at different stages of restoration. What are the talents that your team brings to those projects when you're all working there together?
Well, it's really interesting. The workshop is essentially where I work on my own, but I bring in these people for various disciplines as we need them. And one of them is a clay modeller called Mark O'Brien, and Mark is one of the few people in the world to have worked abroad and worked on the Bugatti Veyron as part of what he does. But there is a kind of a deficit in skills in this country, and it's getting harder to get these people. But it's really good because with a very small team, we're able to take a car basically from a sketch to a drive, something you drive out the door.
So Brian, you know, we are standing in a room of what I can only expect is millions of dollars worth of cars here. Would you be able to share with us a little bit about what happens when a new car comes into the collection? Like, you know, are they fully restored? You know, do you have to do any work to them?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an example. When I started with Lindsay almost 30 years ago, the net value of the collection was estimated to be about $9 million. Today, that's almost tied up in one car. Some of those cars come to us in various states of repair. Some of them are really badly damaged and others are not damaged. and require quite a lot of work. So the work that gets done to the vehicles can vary. For example, this blue Porsche behind us needed a whole new body, so I built a new body for that car. So that car started off with a conversion to right-hand drive. It needed to be changed. It was running the wrong motor. It was running the wrong running gear. So there was lots of things that were wrong with the car, wrong with the chassis. And so I had to look at 3 cars in the US. Lindsay sent me to America. I took all the service information off those cars, came back to Australia and built that body. So in some cases it's required overhauling the complete car, taking it basically from a chassis and then rebuilding it. And then in other cases it's required just mainly a polish and a clean-up. And
you know, with some of the cars, I guess they have their own little stories before they get to you from previous owners.
They certainly do.
What would be what's the one, what do you think in this whole building of cars are the standouts for you as far as the origin?
Goodness gracious, so there's a few standouts here. Where do I start? How much time do we have? But probably the car behind us has a really interesting history. It was the very car built after the car that James Dean was killed in, so that has significance. It was raced by Sterling Moss, Jack Brabham. Sterling Moss won the New Zealand Grand Prix in this car, so it has an interesting history. Downstairs we've got the 540K, which was the car owned by von Ribbentrop. Of course, he was executed at the Nuremberg trials, and it's a factory right-hand drive vehicle. It spent a lot of time in London. Story goes he was very good friends with Joe Kennedy, and they used to travel in that car together. Wow. Kennedy had presidential aspirations himself and wanted to use that car, and they say that relationship with von Ribbentrop and a couple of political statements around democracy being an outmoded concept cost him his presidency, his presidential aspirations. So there are some really interesting standout cars in this collection.
Yeah. Could you tell me a little bit about your involvement in shifting gears at National Gallery?
Yes.
Because that was a pretty amazing exhibition to
Yeah, it was. So, look, I was really happy to be part of it, and when we were invited to be part of it, it was quite humbling, really, because there were some great cars. There was Jack Brabham's car, the BT19, which won the World Championship, and there were some landmark cars from the evolution of motor cars right through to today that have had a link with the Australian automotive industry. So for us to be included in that and featured so well in that was a great feather in the cap to everyone associated with that. It had something like 50,000 people go through the exhibition, and our car was featured very prominently, where we told the story of how the car was developed. So it was a lot of fun, actually.